Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Sadhana Chatushtaya is a teaching of the divine sage Adi Shankara. This teaching refers to the 4 traits that one should strive and develop before and during one's spiritual journey. These form the bedrock for spiritual growth and personal transformation. Namaste and welcome to KYG, to the last class in this trip of mine to India. I am back in Kanchipuram, came back from Varanasi yesterday. I was planning to take this class in Varanasi, but for some reason I just couldn't. I put on the camera and no words came out. So I realized that was not the place for me to finish this series, if you will. But then this morning I got up and I was inspired to visit this temple. I'm in a temple called Kachapeshwarar. This is again one of those fascinating temples in the south. Kachapeshwarar. Kachapa means tortoise. So one of the first incarnations in the evolution of life, if you will, tortoise was one of the early incarnations. And it is believed that divine consciousness in the form of Vishnu took the birth of tortoise and worshipped this highest energy of Shiva in this very spot, and therefore this place is dedicated for that. So it's a fascinating concept again. Kanchipuram, where I am right now, I have been visiting this city very many times. I haven't taken too many videos here because there is very, very strict regulations about videography in temples. And even this, sitting in the courtyard and taking this video, I had to take special permission to do that. But hopefully next time when I'm here, I'll try and see if I can get pull some strings, if you will, because there is so much history in this place. This city is a city of 1,000 temples. So it's just fascinating that all the kings and each of these temples, when I say 1,000 temples, is not something that was built in the last 100, 200 years. These are all 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 year old temples. The temples itself, right? But the main sanctum sanctorum, the portals of energies, are timeless, literally. Nobody knows when these portals were first discovered, who discovered them. So they just say that these lingams manifested themselves. I mean, there was nobody knows the source and the origin of them. This temple is very beautiful. It attracted me when I came and spent Shivratri night. I visited 11 temples. I chanted the Rudram 11 times. So this temple has that beauty of many Shivlingams here. In today's class, we do the last of the 4 prerequisites. And of course, I have a garland given by the priest, which I wear proudly. In today's class, we have the 4th of the 4 prerequisites, or the 4 foundational pillars that we spoke about, have been speaking about in Varanasi. Viveka, Vairagya, Shatasampatti. And the 4th one, they say without this nothing else will work. That is Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva. What is Mumukshutva? Mumukshutva is enthusiasm. Mumukshutva is intense longing. Mumukshutva is yearning to get there, to be there, to experience that. Without that yearning, without that longing, nothing happens. So we spoke about, as we shared lessons in some of the videos, I kept saying this and I repeat this because these 3 are very important. Shravana, you first listen. So knowledge first comes in by way of listening. Of course, even if you read a book, your mind is reading them out, right? So finally words form. So you're basically listening. Shruti, you listen, Shravana. And then Manana, then you contemplate on what you heard. And then you begin to practice. You implement what you understood into your everyday life in some form or the other. But this implementation without enthusiasm, without an intensity, without I have to do this, I'm looking forward to be doing this. And that kind of a self-motivated, enthusiastic approach, without that, the whole practice becomes incomplete. When they say Tivra Samveganam Asana, when they say intense practice of yoga, they don't talk about stretching intensely. They're not talking about spending 3 hours on a yoga mat. You can. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the yoga mat. But that is not the intensity. The intensity is in the yearning, in that mindfulness, in that focusedness, in that enthusiasm, in that attitude of I can't wait to get it started. So that is the attitude with which I can't wait for my next yoga class. I can't wait for my next satsang. I can't wait to share. I can't wait to read this book. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I got this holy text. I want to read this, understand this. That enthusiasm is what prompts you and takes you further. You know, there is a beautiful story of, I heard this in my childhood. I've been hearing it in many forms nowadays. So bear with me. This is not meant to be accurate, but take the essence of the story. It seems Swami Vivekananda, a modern saint and a yogi, for those of you who don't know him, for those of you who know him, of course, he's world famous. Swami Vivekananda approached his master, Swami Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, another great yogi, an example of a role model of devotion, of yoga, of austerity, of penance, of yearning to realize the Supreme, and how Mother Kali gave him that Supreme bliss. These are all in our times, in the last couple of 100 years, these people, right? So Swami Vivekananda comes to his guru and says, have you seen God? He says, yes, of course. How clear have you seen him? As clear as I see you, he says. And then he says, why can't I see God then? I also want to see him. I want to experience him. Why can't I see him? And then Sri Ramakrishna asks him, I know why you cannot see God. Tells him first, I know why you cannot see God. And Vivekananda asks him, why? He says, answer this one question. Are you yearning for God as a drowning man gasps for air? Is there intensity in your yearning? How intense? As the drowning man. If I'm in this column, and if I'm drowning in the column, I call it column. It's a pond. If I'm drowning in this pond, obviously I'm going to be gasping for air. There's no other thought but I need air, right? Every fiber in your cell, every part of your being craves for just one thing, air, right? With that one-pointedness, with that intensity, are you yearning for God? Vivekananda said no. Then Ramakrishna said, then you won't see him, then you won't experience him. So this is not meant to discourage you or me, because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, give me a break, that's never going to happen in my life. I gave it up. But then it just proves a point as to how being one-pointedness, having titiksha, endurance, having shama, dhamma, control of the mind, restraint of the senses, and holding it on that path, staying on that path, having faith in that path, all that is there. But without intense yearning, without bhakti, without that emotional enthusiasm in it, without that feeling in it, without that you have to love your practice. You have to look forward to your practice. You have to love this path. You have to enjoy this path. You have to enjoy. Saint Francis of Assisi enjoyed the poverty. When I say enjoyed, understand it, in the right context, right? He loved it. He loved being poor. So the concept is he loved that, where people shun poverty now, right? They are afraid of poverty. So when you love your path, then that path yields result, no matter what the path is. You could worship just an oval stone like a linga and say the cosmos is in it, and the cosmos will reveal itself in the linga. You can worship a form and say, my God is this and I need no one else. But then if you truly yearn intensely, that is what bhakti or devotion comes from. Devotion is not, oh, I can sing songs, I'm in the path of devotion, I can think of God when I'm driving, I'm going to think of Him when I'm, I can do all of that. If that works for you, fine. But if you're yearning for the highest darshan, sparshan, if you want that one-on-one, my hotline with God, then I don't think that happens without this intense, one-pointed yearning. We all snack every day, don't we? Many times in the day, you pick up a packet of chips or biscuits or whatever it is, apple, whatever it is that you snack on in between meals and all of that. And would that be enough? Just snacking? You won't be happy, right? Wouldn't it be nice to have at least one square meal, as we call it, one square meal a day, where you actually sit at your table and food is served and you have family with you or just alone, it depends, and then you are eating one square meal a day, proper plate, proper food, a couple of courses maybe, whatever it is. That one square meal a day gives you that sense of satisfaction I have had, and then you top it up with all the other things, with snacks and all of that whenever you want. But without that square meal a day, if you're just munching off and on with no discipline, just as you feel like, when you feel like, that is not considered a healthy habit, nor will you ever feel complete gratification that I've had my meal and my hunger is satisfied, right? Your sleep cycles get disturbed and so on and so forth. Where am I going with this analogy? It is that when my practice, I can say when I drive, I'm chanting God's name. When I'm walking, when I do my early morning walk, I kind of do my Sahasranama, 1008 names, and I do this while I'm doing that, I do this while I'm doing that. Those to me are like snacking. You're doing other things, and by the way, you're also paying attention to the God principle in you, or the Advaitic principle in you, or you're just, by the way, add it on so that I'm not compromising what I'm doing, but I'm just going to add it on. That's all good. It's not bad. But you need that one square meal a day. What does that mean? At one time at least in a day where you sit either in your altar or on your yoga mat or wherever, where you take time completely for you and your God. That is your inner space. Nobody comes there. No spouse, no children, no pets, nobody. That is your space in your innermost samadhana. As we talked of samadhana, right? Going home. That is where I am going to my home. And in my home, I find my God. That intense yearning to go back home, you need that. For me, without that, I feel completely hopeless. So I'm just sharing you what I practice. I'm not preaching or telling you to do this. Asking you to consider these things. That intense yearning is what really gets you there. So my friends, don't worry about, is this path correct? Am I doing this correctly? Should I have the lingam facing east, or should it face west, or should it face north or south? Should I have a spatika lingam? Should I have a mercury lingam? Should I chant it like this? Should I offer bilva leaves? Should I offer flowers? What should I do? And get caught in this and be afraid that if I do this, something might go wrong. So I stay back and I don't do anything. And then one day goes by, a week goes by, a month goes by, a year goes by, a decade goes by, and I'm still thinking, oh, maybe if I do this, this might go wrong. Maybe if I do that, that might go wrong. If I do too much of yoga, my leg might break. If I sit too long, my back will get a problem. If I sit and meditate, maybe, whatever, and you're afraid, and that fear of the unknown keeps you going back and forth between different paths or just not doing anything at all. But if there is yearning for this experience, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, yearning for self-realization is the best kind of yearning. Yearning for God realization is the best kind of yearning. Why? Because I think our main problem is we have lost our identity, forgotten who we are. Who am I? I don't know. I've been given a name, I've been given an identity, I've been given a culture, a belief system, and I'm not talking about it as if that's me, but the real me is beyond all this. So who am I? Who is that real me that is beyond all this? Shouldn't I yearn to know that? Shouldn't I yearn intensely to know that? And if my real self is one with the universal consciousness, if my real self is filled with abundance and bliss and joy, shouldn't I be yearning for that? Why would I settle for these trinkets of sensual pleasures, of worldly relationships, and of materialistic? Why would I settle for that? Not that it's bad, it's just, why would I settle for that when I have a spiritual treasure house within me just waiting to be discovered? Why would you buy lottery tickets if you have $1 billion in your bank account? That's my point. That is why Mumukshutva becomes a very important quality. You have to develop it. You have to develop enthusiasm. You have to develop yearning. To me, that comes from satsang. When I listen to videos such as these that I am making now, I listen to my own talks because I feel these are all inspired. Somebody is speaking through me. I just let it go, and then I listen to it. I get inspired. I said, yes, I need to get back into my practice. Whenever I feel to let go, and that brings back the yearning, brings back that motivation and that enthusiasm and that positive energy. When I get into my practice, the practice begins to yield fruits. It's magical. Trust me, it's magical. It's so beautiful that there is no looking back to this beauty. Mumukshutva, Mumukshutva, Mumukshutva. Enthusiasm, intense yearning, intense longing, devotion, wanting to be there. It is different from craving. Craving and yearning are two different things. Craving seeks instant gratification. Yearning says, I will wait. I'm going to keep yearning for it, but I'm going to wait. You yearn for a plant to grow, but you can't make it happen, right? You just do your job and you keep yearning, and then beautifully you wait for the day when the plant grows and the rose blooms. So it's like that. Yearning is such a beautiful quality. And so in this trip, in the month of March 2020, I don't know when I'll be able to edit it and finally publish it, but whenever, I let the universe guide me to do all this. I don't waste a single day, I don't waste a single moment, but as and when my energies and resources and time permits, it'll all fall in place. So on this holy day, on this beautiful day, on this beautiful, beautiful atmosphere of another mighty, mighty Shiva temple, my favorite energy principle, the cosmic energy principle, Shiva, I bring this series for now to a close. The 4 pillars. Contemplate on these 4 pillars, my dear friends, brothers, sisters. These are the 4 pillars that have guided me, that will continue to guide me. These are the 4 pillars I base my whole practice on. Viveka, the ability to prioritize, the clarity in your thinking, the ability to take away things which are not important at that moment, in your life. Vairagya, the ability to drop off things which are not important, the ability to be dispassionate, the ability to not look for the fruits of your action, but to focus on excellence rather than success. Shat Sampatti, Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, Shat Sampatti. And finally, Mumukshutva, intense yearning for liberation, for the ultimate freedom from the senses, for the experience of the absolute supreme Shiva consciousness. I want to close this with this beautiful affirmation which brings out that yearning. I am God. I am God. I am not different from God. I am the Akhanda Parabrahman, the absolute, indivisible, supreme being. I am Sat Chit Ananda, being, awareness, bliss. Grief and anxiety cannot affect me. I am ever content. Fear cannot enter me. I am God. I am God. I am not different from God. I am God. I am God. I am not different. Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.